42 seasons of Survivor dating all the way back to the year 2000. How does anyone rank every single season of the show? With seasons 43 and 44 coming within the next year, I figured why not make a yearly ranking of every season with no spoilers for those who want to get into the show and for those who are still invested. This means I won't spoil winners, as I will make a separate video ranking them, and I will let you know which seasons have returnees so you don't watch those first. But I will not spoil these seasons, with one exception, and it's because I don't have a choice based on the premise of the show. And when we get there, I'll let you know. For this video, I had you all fill out a survey I posted on Patreon and on my community tab here on YouTube, where you simply voted whether you liked a season, didn't like a season, or if you never watched it. If you never saw a season, it didn't affect its rankings at all, and if you liked that season, then you gave it 1 point. If you didn't like it, you took a point away. And at the end of the survey, I asked what your favorite and least favorite season was. Picking a season as your favorite gave it 1 extra bonus point, and saying a season is your least favorite takes another point away, which means yes, one season actually has negative points, and a handful go over the threshold of 100. Now, with that explanation out of the way, prior to season 43, I will be a part of a 4-week Survivor YouTuber podcast ranking series with Peridium, Idled Out, Russell Muscle TV, Flynn Masters, and everyone else you see on this image. We all got together, made our own season rankings, and I can't wait to see how they compare against how you all ranked the seasons. So I recommend following Russell Muscle TV's YouTube channel, as that will be starting soon. And quickly, I want to thank the patrons for supporting this channel and making it possible to do huge videos like this one. If you would like to join them in supporting Once Upon an Island and pick what videos I make, along with watching all of them weeks and even months early, check out the link in the description. So with that, it is time. 42 seasons of Survivor ranked, starting with the tier of seasons I am calling the bottom of the barrel. Number 42, Thailand. Despite season 5 taking place during the old school era of Survivor, where pure social strategy reigned supreme, and this era resulting in a lot of big characters emerging who would go on to become some of the biggest names in the show's history, this season is the black sheep. This season is dominated strategically by one person, while everyone else is made to look like fools. And on top of that, the season is full of people being jerks to each other, the order people are eliminated in becomes predictable fairly quickly, and there's an uncomfortable incident early on. Overall, skipping this one is not a bad idea, as it is the only season on this list to get a negative score. That's right, Survivor Thailand gets a negative 15%. Number 41, One World. Season 24 sees Survivor attempting its third iteration of the men versus women twist to greatly diminishing results. While the first 2 attempts at this twist did result in seasons that are generally liked, and one being argued to this day as one of the greatest seasons ever, One World, it falls flat. Kind of like Thailand. And also like Thailand, one player dominates strategically all season while everyone else is made to look like fools. One annoying character eats up a lot of screen time while they're in the game. And truly the only redeeming factor of this season is the One World twist, where both tribes live on the same beach. It's a twist I wish they would bring back. But this is cut way too soon from the show, despite being the name of the season. Survivor One World ends up with a 9.9%. Number 40, Island of the Idols. Unlike the last 2 seasons, season 39 is pretty good. It has 2 players returning to be mentors, which does mean you will be spoiled on how 3 different seasons end, so I can't recommend this one for newcomers, even if it did land higher on this list. There are good characters on this season. The twist eats up screen time, but it's fairly interesting, and this season has solid strategy by many people. So why is it so low? Well, have you ever tried eating a good bowl of soup but someone dropped a turd in it? That's what happens this season, as one character does some things that should have had them pulled at the merge, but the show just keeps letting them play until the finale. This incident caused many to stop watching the season entirely, and I can't blame them. If it were up to me, this season would be the worst on this list. I would rather watch One World than this season, because at least being boring is better than eating a turd. Island of the Idols ends up with a 13.6% score. Number 39, Redemption Island. Season 22 is in many ways similar to Thailand and One World, chock full of boring characters, one person who dominates strategically, though some fans do love that person this season, and the twist for this season eats up a lot of screen time with no real payoff. The aforementioned Redemption Island seems like a cool concept on paper. That's because for the first time ever, players who get voted off have a chance to return to the game by winning challenges. While this will be used to greater effect in later seasons, here it lacks the proper execution. Also, this season features 2 returnees who will spoil at least 3 past seasons winners as well, so I would not recommend this to newbies. Redemption Island scores a 17.5%. With that, we move on to the next set of seasons on this list, the category that I call It's Okay, I Guess. Number 38, Nicaragua. Season 21 came hot off the heels of what is widely considered the golden age of Survivor. To kick off, you'll never guess this, the Dark Ages. Yeah, it gets that bad. While this season is an improvement over the seasons below it, it is not that interesting strategically, and it moves the show into this ugly look that I'm not sure if everyone else notices, but it has me baffled after so many seasons where the color palettes and color grading were so much better. The Medallion of Power twist this season is a complete flop, but this season has some redeeming qualities. You likely won't see the winner coming from a mile away, unlike the seasons lower on this list. There are some iconic moments, and the twist of young versus old works for a few episodes. This is a season that doesn't have any returnees, so it's okay for new viewers to watch, but it's just okay at best. Nicaragua scores a 33.9%. Number 37, Ghost Island. Season 36 asked the question, what if Survivor brought back past game advantages that failed and are cursed in the mind of the show and had a new cast of players try to use them and redeem them? This is a concept that is interesting on paper and would have been far better off in a returnee season filled with players who cursed the advantages. But instead, they are placed on an island that sees the execution of a cool idea squandered as early as episode 1 with an all newbie cast. So when someone goes to Ghost Island, it's very possible, by the way this is set up, that nothing happens at all. They just go there and they chill. Yeah, that's pretty lame. On top of this, the pre-merge is good, the merge episode is good, but after that, it's essentially a 2-horse race, and it's so frustrating to watch as a result. Though I will admit the final tribal council does get crazy, but simply due to the post-merge and the failed Ghost Island twist, it makes this season hard to recommend. You will be spoiled on how some players finish from past seasons, so I would hold off on watching this one until you are no longer a new viewer to the show. Ghost Island scores a 41.1%. Number 36, Worlds Apart. Season 30 is the first season on this list that I personally would have moved up higher, but I am not surprised by its low placement. The idea of blue-collar workers versus white-collar workers versus free spirits is okay. There are some big personalities, but really what the season lacks in interesting strategic play, it makes up for in character and conflict. It's a very much conflict-driven season. So if you're not big into conflict, you're not gonna like this one. If you enjoyed the idea of one player getting so angry that no one gave them a reward for their birthday, and then they have to do dishes while cursing out everyone on the island, then yeah, this season might be for you, like it is for me. However, there is some bullying that happens to one player that simply just sucks to watch. But by the end of the season, all is right in the world again. This season is safe for new viewers, but I only recommend it to those who want to see people be jerks to each other and enjoy conflict. Worlds Apart scores a 42.1%. Number 35, Caramoan. Season 26 takes the idea of making a tribe of fans play against a tribe of returnees and squanders it. Survivor had done this twist once before to amazing success, and that season will be much higher on this list, but here they cast a bunch of people that almost no one would consider favorites. I would say 3 of their 10 returnees might be considered good characters, the rest are just lackluster or crazy, which causes a lot of conflict, like in Worlds Apart. We do have an incident this season that makes us question a person's mental health and whether Survivor should have even let them play in the first place. Strategically, it does get a bit dull in the back half, but otherwise, there is rarely a dull moment in terms of the characters. The question really is, do you like watching people be insane? Since this season spoils a bunch of seasons prior, I don't recommend it to newbies. Caramoan scores a 45.5%. Number 34, Fiji. Season 14 has so much potential. How does this season fall in between 13 and 15, which are widely considered great seasons, as you will see later? It is in a part of Fiji that is gorgeous to look at times. It has some characters who I am personally glad play the game of Survivor, and in total, this season has 3 episodes I would consider must-watch TV. However, the twist this season of one tribe having bountiful luxuries, while the other gets nothing, quickly unravels and makes for such a boring pre-merge. It's predictable and trite. The merge episode is ruined by a bad production twist, but when the season works, it works. It just doesn't happen too often. The version of the hidden immunity idol that would go on to become the show's standard idol is introduced here, and it works like a charm. But outside of maybe 4 personalities, everyone else here is boring or annoying. I used to watch Survivor Hardcore from season 1, and here is when I decided to stop watching for many years, until a season that is later on this list renewed my love for the show. Don't worry, I'll tell you which one that is. Fiji has no returnees and therefore is fine for newbies, but I would pass until you have seen some of the better seasons this show has to offer. Fiji scores a 46.6%. Number 33, Survivor 41. Season 41 was delayed by a whole year due to COVID, and the fans were hyped after waiting to see what the show had up its sleeve after the stellar Winners at War season, which of course you can guess is much higher on this list. So what did Survivor bring to the table? An overabundance of advantages, a confusing lack of camp life, a new format of 26 days instead of the standard 39, and depending on your point of view, the large focus on real-life social issues drags down a lot of the fun the show normally brings. And the winner story is lackluster. So what does the show do right this season? It has a cast of interesting people and a villain that the show wants us to be sympathetic for, but I couldn't help but love that we had a classic villain on our hands that would have easily fit into an earlier season. It's almost like a season that's at war with itself. Survivor 41 divides the fan base and had a lot of people asking if Survivor would continue down this road, because if it did, they were not going to watch anymore. Or would they course correct back to the show we fell in love with originally? I can say this one is okay for new viewers since no past seasons are spoiled, aside from Jeff telling you which tribe the winner of season 37 comes from. Survivor 41 scores a 47.1%. Number 32, South Pacific. Season 23 is in the midst of the Dark Ages, and the last Dark Ages season on this list, as it does bring back the Redemption Island twist, but the players take advantage of it this time strategically. 2 returnees are brought back that, while big characters, they are not good enough to steamroll all the new players unlike some other seasons. However, the big catch this season is that all the women are basically non-factors while the men eat up screen time. One returnee ends up creating an in-game cult of sorts, and there are times it feels weird to watch, which is in direct contrast to other parts of the season that are legendary. South Pacific, like Survivor 41, is in a war with itself. It wants to be good, but not everyone is letting that happen. I don't recommend it to new viewers, as there are returnees that will spoil much better seasons that came before it. So with that, Survivor South Pacific scores a 51.2%. And from there we move on to the next section of this ranking that I call good, but not great. Number 31, Edge of Extinction. Season 38 kicks off the next section of our rankings with a hugely controversial twist that sees Redemption Island cranked up to 11. It is now possible for the first person voted out to win one challenge at the final 5 and then go on to win this season. Yeah, whoever allowed this to be possible should be fired. The first time watching this season is an emotional roller coaster that feels like it falls off the tracks and crashes at the end. A great cast that doesn't know what to do with this new twist makes for a messy season. Plus, they added 4 returnees here just for kicks. They didn't need to, but it happened. Personally, I see why this one is ranked low and I won't argue with it. I would have done the same after my first viewing, but rewatching the season is so much better. Knowing how this train wreck is going to go is like watching the movie The Sixth Sense for the second time. Sure, the surprise is gone, but you get to see that twist unfold knowing how it will go, and it makes for an almost weirdly cinematic experience. The finale alone is one of the best of all time, and that's in a season that is considered number 31 on this list, so that should tell you a lot. Basically, a first time watch can be rough, but a rewatch is like finding a $20 bill in your jacket. What a pleasant surprise. Edge of Extinction scores a 53.5%. Number 30, Heroes vs. Healers vs. Hustlers. Season 35 prompted the question that no one wanted asked: can Survivor rig something mid-season? We had seen them clearly add some things on the fly in the past, but those were small and inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. Here, people still debate whether the twist the show dropped at the last second is legit or not. With that in mind, most of the cast here is boring and people you will forget ever played the game. However, the post-merge game is intense and the biggest characters make it far. No returnees are present, so new viewers can watch this, but prepare your butt for the biggest plot twist added by the show ever. And I may be exaggerating that a little bit, but it just comes out of left field. Heroes vs. Healers vs. Hustlers scores a 55.1%. Number 29, Game Changers. Season 34 has me asking, did Survivor learn anything from Caramoan? That season had us asking whether some of these favorites are even favorites, and this season has me asking if everyone here is even a game changer. Out of the 20 returnees, I would say 10 of them, meaning half, are worthy of the title. Game Changers vs. fans would have likely made a much better season with the good half of this cast. Anyways, what we do get is a season that starts off very strong with one of the best pre-merges of all time, but ends up limping across the finish line with a few of us going, oh boy, that was definitely a season of Survivor I just watched. Strategically, there are good moments. The characters who delivered on past seasons deliver here, and there's one uncomfortable moment, but unlike an Island of the Idols, it is swiftly dealt with. Since it is a cast of returnees, it will spoil a lot of past seasons, including many that are superior to this one. I don't recommend this until you have seen all seasons prior, as players from seasons 2 to 33 return here. Game Changer scores a 59.6%. Number 28, Guatemala. Season 11 delivers a fantastic location, big characters, and 2 returnees from the prior season who do not drag everything down and instead enhance the season overall. So, why does it rank this low? It is strategically dull. There are some iconic moments this season, including forcing the tribes to do a 24-hour, that's right, a whole day-long race to get the best camp at the beginning of the show, but at times, this season just falls flat. It does introduce the first version of the hidden immunity idol that will later be perfected and has my all-time favorite big mouth character who just can't contain himself. Once you hear him talk, you know who I'm talking about. But strategy-wise, it is basic and uninteresting. Since the 2 returnees are from the season prior, meaning season 10, I can say 100% watch this right after season 10 as it feels like a direct sequel. Guatemala scores a 63.2%. Number 27, Samoa. Season 19 is part of the golden age of Survivor, and whether you love or hate this season rides on your personal taste towards one character. Personally, this feels like an origin story for a season that is much higher on this list, and the character that dominates everything, well, dominates everything. The storytelling ends up faltering because they focus so much on that one person that you kind of forget that yeah, there are 19 other people in the show, but when it works, and when it doesn't, you can be confused. You'll be like, wait, why does this other person think this thing? But you don't know because you only know one person's thoughts the whole season. At least that's how it feels. I will say this is a season I highly recommend to newcomers, as it will teach you the most important fundamentals on how to win Survivor while showing you what absolutely does not work. This may be number 27 on the list, but I personally would have put it so much higher. Samoa scores a 64.2%. Number 26, All Stars. Season 8 is the end of the old school era of the show. It caps off the most popular time in the show's history with a meeting of these characters we grew to love, just now with big egos and vendettas against each other. Who saw this coming? Things are brought into the season that occurred outside the game, and it gets a little confusing. I would say 15 of the 18 people here are at least legit all-stars, so they mostly got the cast right this season, but who knew so much animosity would be dragged into the season and subsequently drag it down? However, there are 2 people this season that will win over America's heart and secure themselves as Survivor legends due to their actions this season. I do not recommend this one until you have seen seasons 1 through 3 and seasons 4 through 7. You really can skip Thailand, it doesn't matter. All-Star scores a 69.5%. And with that, we move on to the next section of these rankings. It's like pizza. Number 25, Vanuatu. Season 9 comes right after All Stars, and as a result is often overlooked by most of the fan base. It does start off slow and has too many twists in the beginning that distract us from getting to know everyone. But once a literal earthquake happens in episode 5, this season gets better and better until the final tribal council is like this huge climax. It's one of the best performances I've ever witnessed on the show. Vanuatu is a lot like a movie in terms of how it plays out. I wish someone had told me it started off slow before I started watching it, but now that you know, you can understand this and hopefully get past the first 4 episodes because they're not that great. This season features men versus women for the second time in the show's history, and that war between the sexes means a lot more here than it did the first time. War is real and it makes for a lot of drama and conflict, but the fun kind of conflict, not the kind that ruins your soup. I wish Vanuatu were higher on this list, as I absolutely recommend it to new viewers. Vanuatu scores a 75.4%. Number 24, Marquesas. Season 4 is so slapdash due to 9/11 happening months prior that it forced Survivor to try new things, because Survivor is planning on going to Jordan originally, and at the last second they had to move to Marquesas. So some of the things they tried worked, and some are a challenge where everyone flies kites. Yeah, this show got a little desperate. This season introduced the next level of strategy, as the first 3 seasons kind of laid the groundwork that Marquesas built on. Unfortunately, while the storytelling is really good in the first half of the season, the second half of the season is a bit dull. But that first half of the season is so strong and does introduce a Survivor icon who attacks things head on in a way that is similar to the player who dominated Samoa. This season is newcomer friendly, but it does feel a bit dated. While Marquesas is not top to bottom gold, the good outweighs the bad and brings with it one of my favorite winners of all time. Marquesas scores a 76.2%. Number 23, Gabon. Season 17 is the funniest season of all time. This is why I think it is so revered by some and despised by others. You don't go into a Survivor season typically expecting comedy, but that's what happened here. This is the first Survivor season filmed in HD, and it features a unique location that has the show trying new challenges. But if you want good strategy, then just move along. That is because the strategy this season is just atrocious and people get personal. The train wreck that is Gabon nearly caused the host to quit the show forever. However, knowing that this is a train wreck only makes watching it that much more fun. This season rides or dies on its characters, and I love it. It is a beautiful mess with almost non-stop funny moments filled with people being petty just to enact revenge on each other. I wouldn't say this should be a first season to watch for newcomers, but definitely one to turn on after seeing a few good seasons of the show. Gabon scores a 76.3%. Number 22, Palau. Season 10 is the first part of the duology I mentioned earlier when I talked about Guatemala. This season features the first ever 20-player cast, a boatload of new game twists that would go on to become series staples, and a fan favorite character that will pull on your heartstrings. Palau features a train wreck along with some of the best strategy seen in the show to this point. How do both exist? Once you watch it, you'll know. So why isn't it ranked higher? Because unlike Edge of Extinction, this season only works on its first watch. Knowing how it plays out kind of ruins repeat viewings. In a way, it's like the James Cameron Avatar of this list. A big deal the first time you see it, but why would you ever rewatch it? For newcomers though, I say watch this unspoiled and then watch Guatemala. It's a cool back-to-back story. Palau scores a 77.3%. Number 21, the Australian Outback. Season 2 of Survivor is what happens when the show gets a bigger budget and they don't quite know what to do with it yet. They add more days than they need to by amping it up to 42, and it's just way too long, and it's all a bit bloated in every regard. However, the cast delivers. These characters are iconic in the Survivor space, and half of them are asked back for eternity seasons. Survivor the Australian Outback is the show's most watched season of all time, and I will admit, up through episode 10, the Australian Outback delivers a worthy sequel to Survivor Borneo, but then the last 5 episodes drag on predictably until one shocking moment in the finale. This is a good season in many ways, but the lack of energy in those last 5 episodes has it all kind of ending with a whimper. The Australian Outback scores a 78.6%. Number 20, The Amazon. Season 6 is Survivor's first attempt at the men versus women twist, and wow, what a time capsule this season is. If you can accept men and women making cliche jokes about the other sex, then this lighthearted season will be just your speed. Strategy takes a huge leap forward here, and there are many moments that the cast deliver on to make good TV. Jeff Probst, the host of the show, feels like the sassy Jeff we will get to know from now on, and if you can live with some dated humor like I said, I highly recommend the season to newcomers. It may not be in HD, but everything else works and makes up for the disaster that was Thailand, which came prior to this one. The Amazon scores a 78.8%. Our next section of this list is what I call Any Day of the Week. Number 19, Ko Wrong. Season 32 is what I call a solid season of Survivor. The tribes are divided by brains, brawn, and beauty. There are multiple contenders in the finale worthy of the win. Strategic play is interesting almost all season, and a villainous duo get their comeuppance. Remember when I said that season 14 Fiji had me quitting the show? Well, Ko Wrong brought me back. After seeing this, I had to binge everything I missed. That's how good this season is. Ko Wrong sets some records this season, one of them being scary to watch, and brings back the debate from Samoa of what it takes to win Survivor. What matters the most? With no past seasons being spoiled because of this one, I can recommend Ko Wrong to new viewers without an issue. Ko Wrong scores an 83.8%. Number 18, Exile Island, otherwise known as Panama. Season 12 comes off the heels of Guatemala with a new super idol, a first ever 4 tribes, the brand new season-long twist of Exile Island, and a cast of characters who cause drama pretty much all season. The Kasaya tribe plus one person from the opposing tribe carry the season on their back almost solely because of who they are and how they interact. Almost nothing interesting happens strategically in my opinion until the end, but it really doesn't matter as characters make a season what it is, and the people on this season make this one worth watching at least once. No past seasons are spoiled by this one, so it's newcomer friendly, and Exile Island scores an 85.5%. Number 17, Borneo. Season 1 is a hard one to judge in comparison to the rest. Every season after this feels more like a cinematic experience or even a game show, whereas Borneo feels like 16 people were truly dropped on an island and have no idea what to do or what to expect except, hey, you gotta live here for 39 days. It's refreshing and America fell in love with it when it aired for a reason. The origins of basic strategies are created here, but more importantly is how almost every character is memorable. There are so many seasons where I can't name more than maybe 5 or 6 people from the show, but Borneo, oh, I remember everyone. It's more like a documentary, which means it has slow points, but that change of pace the season brings with it is worth watching at least once. Just prepare yourself for a journey that evolves into a cutthroat game show, rather than being cutthroat from the beginning like we're used to from other seasons. Borneo scores an 85.6%. Number 16, Africa. Season 3 sees us traveling to the water-starved Kenya, where lions roam free and wildlife is consistently right there, breathing heavily, waiting for the players to fall asleep so they can eat them. Is there a game of Survivor happening this season? Yes. Is it silly that this season is called Africa when a later season also takes place in Africa? Of course. The location is a character of its own though. We see the first instance of an anti-hero in Survivor, along with the show introducing a game-changing twist that completely blindsides everyone, but in a good way. This is a good season that newcomers can watch, but it is very much old school Survivor. Africa scores an 85.9%. Number 15, San Juan del Sur. Season 29 is one that baffles me, so I will try to say what I think people like about it and contrast that with my own view. As the second iteration of the blood versus water twist, San Juan del Sur pits family members against each other in a way that works sometimes, but mostly results in okay drama at best. There are a couple of wonderful characters and the end game is strong, but wow, the first 2/3 of this season drag and drag. Some players will return in later seasons, having much better, much more memorable games those seasons, but this season is beloved by many and I don't get the hype, so I'm not knocking it. However, it is safe for newcomers as it is all new players, and San Juan del Sur scores an 86.2%. Number 14, Survivor 42. Season 42 has all the elements of Season 41. All those complaints I listed earlier are presented here. An overabundance of advantages? Check. Real-world social issues are a big part of an episode? Of course. But it is clear as day that the show made a massive course correction with its storytelling following the abysmal reception to 41 to try and win back the general fan base, and it mostly works. The cast is mostly excellent, the focus on twists has been lessened, we get to know almost every character, and there isn't a dull episode in the bunch. I give huge credit to whoever reworked this season after seeing how bad 41 was, as this clearly is a much better season that was saved in the edit. Had 41 been well received, this season would not be presented the way it is here, but thankfully, 41 got backlash, so they fixed 42. This is a newcomer-friendly season, but it does spoil the winner of 41 if you care. Survivor 42 scores an 87.6%. Number 13, Millennials vs. Gen X. Season 33 asked, what if we tried the old versus young twist from Nicaragua, but did it better and more cringe-inducing at the same time? Somehow it works, despite the cringe-inducing dialogue that they force into the show, and the players came to play, no doubt about it. There are wonderful character arcs this time around. Fiji here feels like a breath of fresh air since not seeing it since season 14, though later seasons will make us ever regret coming back, and Jeff can't stop sounding like an old man when comparing the generations. It's eye-roll inducing, but it works as the show commits to it, and I look forward to the eventual Gen Z versus Millennial season. Millennials versus Gen X scores an 88.5%. With that, the next section of this list is called Love at First Watch, and that's for good reason. Number 12, Blood vs. Water. Season 27 introduces the concept of players playing against their loved ones while mixing in the fans versus favorites format, along with Redemption Island coming back for some reason. It sounds like a mess on paper, but instead it makes a good season that has almost nothing wrong with it except the first boot. That person deserved better. The emotional stakes are high all season long as loved ones compete against each other and of course have to vote each other out. Strategy gets better as the season chugs along, and the end game is a joy to watch. I can't recommend it to new viewers since it is very much focused on returnees and spoils a lot of past seasons, including really good ones. But this season is really good as a result of building off those past seasons. So, Blood vs. Water scores an 89.3%. Number 11, Cook Islands. Season 13 asks, what if Survivor were to divide the tribes by race? You may be wondering, why would they ever ask this question? Well, the answer is that they were very much misguided and it almost becomes a disaster, but the luck of the draw works in their favor here, as the people who make it the furthest are the most fun to watch, and the strategy is great and the drama is intriguing. This season feels a lot like the show thinks they're behind by 3 touchdowns and they go, Well, why don't we just throw it up in the air in between the 3 defenders and see if our wide receiver comes down with the pass? It's ill-advised, it wasn't a good idea, but they do it and it works. It shouldn't have worked, but it did, and it makes for a fun season as a result. Just never do that again. It is newcomer friendly, and Cook Island scores a 90%. Number 10, Philippines. Season 25 brings back 3 players who were medically evacuated from the game prior and gives them one more shot to play. None of them are especially good strategically, so as a result, they don't dominate the season and make it all about them, meaning the season isn't dull like it was in Redemption Island. Philippines is what I would call a solid season of Survivor with big characters, memorable moments, and it almost single-handedly pulls Survivor out of the dark ages until Caramoan just punches the show back in, kicking and screaming. Normally, I say to avoid seasons with returnees if you're just starting the show, but this one I feel okay with saying go ahead and watch it, as the 3 returnees almost certainly do not ruin the seasons they come from since they were pulled for medical reasons. Philippines scores a 91.3%. Number 9, Tocantins. Season 18 is the last classic season of Survivor. 39 days, 16 players, and minimal twists. Guess what? As a result, the cast carries the show and somehow elevates what could have just been an okay season to new heights. Thank goodness they cast these people. Everyone who's worth their salt makes it far in the show, and it never feels unfair at any point in time. The drama, strategic play, and comedy all mesh together perfectly. If it were up to me, I would say this would be the number 1 season for a newcomer to watch, as it teaches you everything you need to know about the show while keeping it fun and memorable. Personally, this is tied as my number 1 season with another on this list that I will mention later. Tocantins scores a 93.2%. Number 8, Micronesia. Season 16 asks, what if we pit fans versus returnees? The result is a lighthearted, amazing, fun-filled, strategically crazy bloodbath. Kind of like Cook Islands, this really shouldn't have worked since a lot of these fans are not up to snuff with returnees. But these returnees were not strategic powerhouses in their prior seasons, so weirdly enough, it all mixes well. I mean everything I just said in the best way possible, by the way. Caramoan tried to replicate this season and failed, and I can't argue with anyone they brought back to play here, and from top to bottom, this season delivers. If you want to watch this one, then I say at least watch seasons 12, 13, and 15 first, and I think you'll be okay. Micronesia scores a 97.7%. Number 7, China. Season 15 is essential viewing going into the aforementioned Micronesia and is the season that kicks off the golden age of Survivor. Survivor goes to China and they take full advantage of the culture and location. The show cranked their creativity up after the boring season 4, and the commitment to the location really works in a way that I wish Survivor would do this again. They had done it prior and that season's even higher in this list, but here, China is beautiful, the cast came to play, the drama gets heated, and the final tribal council is another one for the ages. Newcomers can watch this without any issues. China scores a 97.9%. Number 6, Cambodia. Season 31 put the casting of the show into the fans' hands, which sounds crazy, but don't worry, the fans didn't have 100% full control, as Survivor gave us a large pool of players, and we got to vote for which one of those we wanted to come back and play. The theme of second chance combined with the location of Cambodia makes for a strong start to the season character-wise before it evolves into this crazy strategic game that at one point, Jeff literally pauses the show to pull out a whiteboard of sorts and explain what the heck is going on. It gets that complex. AKA, the season is not newcomer friendly at all, but wow, it sure feels like a great payoff as a cap to many player stories that go all the way back to season 2. Cambodia scores at 98.6%. With that, we move into our final section of these rankings, the cream of the crop. Number 5, Winners at War. Here is your spoiler warning. I advise you to skip to number 4 to avoid spoilers, as this season contains 20 past winners and therefore spoils so many seasons. Okay, that was your chance to skip ahead. This season is the Avengers Endgame of the Survivor show. It holds little weight to new viewers, but is a crazy watch for those who saw the first 39. Unfortunately, the show doesn't pull the winners from seasons 1 and 2, but I can't argue with a lot of who they do pick. The winner here earns it by a mile, which is what we want from a winner season. The story arcs for a lot of players feel great, and the edge of extinction is not as egregious as it was prior. I am so glad Survivor pulled this off, as fans had been clamoring for it for a long time. Winners at War breaks the ceiling as it scores a 101.6%. Any season that goes over 100 is due to so many people voting it as their favorite season, so it negates anyone who said they didn't like it. Number 4, Pearl Islands. Season 7 is the best that Survivor can offer from the original era. The pirate theme permeates everything this season. The characters are large, the drama gets wild, the strategies of players collide in ways that thought not to be possible prior to this season, and the overall lighthearted fun carries this show past its small issues. Why it takes until China for Survivor to go this hard on a theme again baffles me, as Pearl Islands is must-watch TV for all Survivor fans, new and old. First time, second time, 20th time, this season holds up beautifully. Personally, this is in my top 3 as well. It contains no returnees, so please watch this right away. Pearl Island scores a 102.6%. Number 3, David vs. Goliath. Season 37 did something considered boring before it started airing. It picked a theme for the season that sets up an obvious underdog and an obvious favorite. On paper, this seems like it could very easily fail, but the casting nailed who should be on each tribe so well that you end up rooting for both sides in their war against each other. The storytelling is magic, the comedy is high, the strategy is next level at times, and the season never falters at any point. Personally, this is my favorite season right next to Tocantins, and I cannot recommend it enough to new viewers. David vs. Goliath scores a 104.8%. Number 2, Cagayan. Season 28 is a beloved season, not because of its brains versus brawn versus beauty tribe division that we also see in Ko-Rong later, and not because production forced a gimmick in, simply because the cast came to play, they made great TV, and caused a lot of lighthearted drama. Llamas will go down in infamy because of this season. Combine that with chaos and you get Cagayan, the highest rated all newbie cast on this list, and it's commonly referred to as the best season of all time by many. It does not spoil any season prior to it, and watching it is highly recommended for all as a way to cure the blues. Cagayan scores a 109.3%. Number 1, Heroes vs. Villains. Season 20 basically does what Season 8 All-Stars should have done. Have a lighthearted returnee season with classic favorites and those who had just recently played. This is best watched right after binging the golden era of Survivor, aka seasons 15 through 19, as everyone here comes to play, and people do have critiques of the season because on paper you can go, wow, parts of this season blow. Then the moment you rewatch it, you forget all of that because the storytelling and energy are just top tier. Survivor reaches such high highs with this one that they dive into the dark ages afterwards. It's like a hangover because no one knows how to follow up such beauty. It is chock full of returnees, so I would recommend watching this one right after seasons 2 through 19 as it pays off a lot of storylines that carry throughout those seasons. Heroes vs. Villains scores a 112.6%. Wow, that was a long video. Do you agree with these rankings? Did the fans get it right or did they get it wrong? If you want to rank the winners, then check out the link in the description to fill out the form for that upcoming video. Anyways, thanks for watching and doubly thanks for liking and subscribing. See you all next time.